In this video, we're focusing on word problems involving simultaneous equations. Now, there are set steps for solving these word problems. Now, what you need to do is read the problem carefully. That is probably the most important part of this because it's so easy to skip over or skim read things and miss key information. So read the problem carefully. Now, next you want to identify the variables to be used. So that means what are they talking about, and you want to create some letters or pronumerals that match those. Now, use the variables to write simultaneous equations from the text. So that means you'll have two equations that you need to solve. Once you've found those, again, you solve the equations and then you end it by writing a conclusion that is related to the problem. Now, tips are highlight key information. Highlight, underline, write it to the side, whatever works for you, but write it down somewhere so you can see what's going on. Now, use variables that match the things in the text. So if you're talking about hats, use the letter H, all right? Things like that. So the first problem we're looking at is, at a circus, there were twice as many children as there were adults in attendance. Now, altogether, 1,020 attended the circus. How many children attended? So the first thing I think is key to look at here, let's highlight some stuff, is we've got adults, wrong one, we've got adults and we have children. So I know those are my variables. So I've got C for children and I've got A for adults. Now, we need to come up with some equations here. So the first part that I thought was important was there's twice as many children as there were adults. So the first equation is going to be that C equals 2A, all right? Because there's whatever number of adults, if there's 10 adults, that means there's 20 children. If there's 30 adults, it means there's 60 children. Now the next thing is altogether, 1,020 attended the circus. So that means all the children and all the adults add up to 1,020. So 1,020 equals all the children plus all the adults. Right, so now we have two equations. Now this was a really neat one because we have C equals 2A and then we also have a C over here, okay? So this C, all right, what it equals is what we're going to put in here, okay? So what happens is we end up with 1,020 equals 2A plus A, all right? So we can start simplifying this by collecting our like terms. Now both these A's, so we can just add them and we get 3A. Now at this point, it's a regular equation, so let's just solve that. Now remember, 3A is the same as 3 times A, so we're going to divide by 3, and we get 340 equals A. So we know there's 340 adults, but the question, if you read carefully, how many children attended? So we haven't even answered the real question yet. We've just found how many adults there are. Now we can go back up to, let's use a different color here, and we can change that A there to 340. So we get C equals 2 times 340, and we get 680. So now that we've got some facts down, I'm going to circle these so we know what's going on. So we've got the 680 and we've got the 340. All right, so we need to write a statement. There were 680 children at the circus. All right, so that's our concluding statement. So remember the steps we took here. We found the variables we used. We found two equations that we needed to use. We solved them simultaneously to find what C and A equals. And then we wrote a statement that answered the question. There were 680 children at the circus. So here's another one. A business sold 60 storage boxes. They're two colors, red and blue. The red boxes sold for 42 each and the blue for 35 each. How many of each type of storage box did the business sell if it made 2,352? So the first one's quite simple. We know we have 60 storage boxes and there's two colors. There's red and there's blue. So we've got red and we have blue. And we know there's 60 storage boxes altogether. So the first equation can be 60 equals red boxes plus blue boxes. Now we need to come up with our second one. Now the second one has a bit of information going on. We know the red boxes are selling for 42, the blue boxes are selling for 35, and we made 2,352. So we can use that. So 2,352 has to equal, however, the money for the red boxes times by how many red boxes we sold, plus the money for the blue boxes and how many blue boxes we sold. All right? So now that we got that, I'm going to look at which one of these is easiest to rearrange and modify to make it substitute in. So I'm going to work with this over here, okay? And I'm going to focus on finding what red equals. So to do that, I need to get rid of this blue. So we move it over here and end up with 60 minus B equals R. And at this point, you know what's going on. We can substitute this back over here to where this R is here. All right. So what we end up with is 2,352 equals 42. Now we need brackets here. Bracket because there's multiple terms. B plus 35B. So we need to expand our brackets. Now we use the arrow method. Well, that's what I prefer. Use your arrows there. So we end up with 2,352 equals 42 times 60, which ends up being 2,520. Then we have 42 times negative b, so negative 42b, and then our plus 35b at the end. So let's collect our like terms by combining our b's. So we've got 2,352 equals 2,520. Then we have minus 42 plus 35. So minus 7b. And now we can solve it like a regular equation. So let's minus the 2,520. And we end up with negative 168. Let's do that a bit bigger. Negative 168 equals negative 7b. So let's divide by that negative 7 to both sides. They cancel out. And we get 24 equals B. So we know 24 of the blue boxes were sold. So now we can go back up. So here, can go back up here to this where this B is, and we can solve it. So we get 60, take away 24 equals R. So R is going to equal 36. So concluding statement here is the business sold 36 red boxes and 24 blue boxes. So we followed the same steps. There was a little bit more working on the right hand side, but that's fine. You just follow your inverse operations, but eventually we got down to the statement that the business sold 36 red boxes and 24 blue boxes. Now, to recap this video, remember your steps for solving these word problems. You want to read the problem carefully. Identify the variables that you're going to be using. So if it's boxes, use B. If it's hats, use H. If it's something red, use R. Now, use those variables to create two simultaneous equations from the text. And then what you do is you solve those equations and write a concluding statement that is directed towards the problem in the text.